I'm curious who is in the room and what you guys do for businesses. I know what you do for a business. Anybody else want to tell me what they do for business? Yes, ma'am. You have an interior plant design. Cool. My wanted poster, I think, is at the plant store. So I don't know if I would be allowed in your plant store. No, I said my wanted poster for murdering plants. Oh, I know. I just was at the ADD presentation. So I'm forgiving myself for the plant neglect. It really wasn't murder. It was just neglect. So that's awesome, though. Awesome. What do you do for business? Great. Yay. Another freelance graphic designer. This is Miranda. I got to meet her earlier. And Laura, the listening coach. What do you ladies do? Ooh, I like that. Happiness consultant. Personal stylist. I need one of those. I am not a good. I butcher the look as much as I butcher plants. So, yes. Photography. I have a lot of experience in. Fashion design. Oh, yeah, another person I need. Do you two know each other? There you go. Synergistic businesses. Synergistic businesses. What about over here? Creative consultant. So do you consult with people on their marketing or artists or, okay. Perfect. What about you? An app for what making? Oh my. How many of you need an app for decision making? That's probably very handy. Cool. What about over here? What do you do? Oh, nice. Science and engineering staffing. Yeah, there we go. What about back here? A technology consulting. Are in the U.S., did you say? In the U.S., so consulting with, okay. So international companies wanting to do business here? Nice. And you're together. Okay, cool. I think I missed you guys. I know what Tori does. Tori works for Square One. So if you aren't familiar with Square One, please go downstairs and visit their little table down there. What do you do?
What I do now is I'm the development director for a regional mental health center.
Nice. Development director for Regional Mental Health Center. Part of my life is spent doing Gestalt coaching with horses, which I know is weird. You guys are probably like, why is there an entrepreneur woman up here talking that does Gestalt coaching with horses? It was a whole thing. That ADHD thing. My problem is that I don't let the things that interest me go. I just become multi-talented. So now I have multiple businesses. I've done professional photography. I still teach professional photography classes. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 plus years. That's probably the only one you guys need to know. And most of that time has been spending helping small businesses market. What about over here? What do you guys do for businesses? You own a gym. I need to go to the gym more often. Give me your card before you leave. What about you guys? Educational consultant to keep at-risk kids at school. That's an important job. What about you? Technology consultant. That's one of those things like I work in logistics. What does that mean? I know I've heard it over here too. Okay. Do you help people pick their tech for startup companies or? So what do you do? What is your business? There we go. Help scale organization using technology. A little bit more information, but did you enjoy the AI legal team thing earlier? That was interesting. Okay, what about you? What do you do? A what scaper? Oh, nice. Patios, retain. Oh, I like that. What about back here? And the guy who's introducing me can kick me out of doing this anytime he wants. What about back here? Nice. So y'all need to pay attention. Consumer research is part of what we're going to talk about. And always go see the massage therapist. What about this table? Mental health tech founder? Nice. See? Nice. Nice. Human resources professional. That is awesome. I'm driving the video person crazy, I think. I'm sorry. All right. Are we ready? Is it exactly 2:45 yet? Okay, cool. I don't know where the guy is that was going to introduce me, but I'm good. I can just introduce myself. So how many of you guys have been to one of my SCORE classes? Do I have friendly faces in this group? Square one or SCORE classes? Oh, I get to a whole new audience. I've got two. Okay. So my name's Kimberly Beer, and I kind of hang out in Kansas City teaching classes about marketing, social media, about really getting your head straight on as a business owner and protecting the asset that's most important to your business, and that's you, if you weren't aware of that. So today's presentation is going to be very tactical. It is on creating a small business marketing strategy. And so I'm a country girl. I live on a farm. I have horses. You obviously heard me talk about equine gestalt, which is a weird term. If you want to Google it, there's information online. But on the farm, we occasionally get things stuck in the mud. And I particularly am one who loves to get things stuck in the mud. And it's not intentional. I mean, I don't do it on purpose, but I do get stuck a lot. And when I talk with entrepreneurs, and I've had the privilege of working with literally thousands of you guys over the years, marketing is probably one of the #1 places that entrepreneurs get stuck in the mud. Do you guys feel like you're stuck in your marketing programs? Yeah. And when I talk with entrepreneurs, when I ask them what their biggest struggle is, this is at the top of their list. And what I did with that information was say, how can I make this easier for people to understand? Because when you're stuck, you tend to look for the solution. And the truth is with small business marketing, there's no the solution. It is multiple points that you have to hit on to have a fully formed marketing program. And I think especially for entrepreneurs today, they get really stuck in thinking that social media is the only way they can market their business. And if they're not successful at that, they're a failure at marketing. Do you guys feel that way sometimes? Like you have to do social media in order to be successful. The truth is, social media is one small piece of a much larger marketing program. So we've got to hit this with all of our wheels. And to get unstuck on the farm, a lot of times what I have to do is engage four-wheel drive on whatever vehicle I have stuck in the mud. And that's what I want to teach you guys today, is to how to get unstuck using your four-wheel drive. All right, I need a volunteer. Miranda, would you volunteer for me? Poor Miranda says, I got this because I met her earlier and she knows my name. So when I get to the little wheel things, if you just like throw those out on tables somewhere, there should be, huh? No, just wait. I'm going to introduce you guys to some topics, and then I do have a handout, but I don't want y'all playing with the handout before we get through the topic, because I've been to the ADHD class and I know how that works. All right, so here's the four wheels of our small business marketing engine. Well, and actually I put the word revenue on there because you know what marketing does for us and why it's so important? Anybody guess? Revenue, money, 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 money. Okay, so there's 4 wheels here, and I'm gonna go through each of the 4 wheels because now my blind butt is looking at this going, my gosh, I could have made that bigger. So does everybody know what a rear wheel drive vehicle is and how it works? So the rear wheels push and the front wheels steer, okay? So that's how this works. That's my metaphor for this. So our rear wheels are inbound and outbound marketing. So those wheels are the wheels that drive our marketing system forward. And then our front wheels that steer it are our branding and experience and our sales wheels. And each wheel has 4 lug nuts that are very important to get that wheel to go forward and to stay on the car. Now, how many of you have driven a car with a flat tire at some point in your life? You can get where you're going, right? But it's not super comfortable. What about somebody driven a car with 2 flat tires? Nobody here's flattened 2 tires at one time? I have. I can tell you, it goes worse. It's actually, though, easier to steer than the one with just 1 flat tire. But the truth is you can get where you're going even if you have 4 flat tires, but you're not going to get there fast, and you're not going to get there efficiently. So what we want to do is we want to make sure all of these wheels for your business are balanced and that they are all working. Put this thing in my pocket. And I'm going to forget that. So the first wheel we're going to look at is your inbound marketing. So inbound marketing happens to be where social media lives. And if we think about inbound marketing, my favorite way to think about it is it's bait. It's what we put out into the world hoping that somebody is going to interact with it and hoping that they're going to find it. It's like leaving breadcrumbs in the forest for somebody to find you. And what we do is we want to strategically place those breadcrumbs so people can find exactly who we are and who we serve, and who we serve can find us. So what I recommend here is a serialized content marketing program. How many of you are familiar with what content marketing is? Okay, some of you. Anybody not familiar with that term? Kinda, right? So content marketing is using what we know, what the information that we have, the inspiration that we have, the knowledge that we have, to be able to educate people who are trying to solve a problem, and that problem is what we eventually, our product or service, solves. So we use content to help them to be able to understand how that problem works and to create a small victory for them. That's exactly what your content is intended to do. So if I'm a happiness consultant, the thing I want my content to do is I want it to give whoever interacts with it a small hit of happiness. Don't need to give them the whole farm, but I want to create a small victory. If my business is helping kids that are at risk stay in school, my content is probably going to be focused at their parents or their caregivers, and it's going to give them one thing that they can do to be better at whatever it is. If I'm a massage therapist, I'm going to give person one hint about how to relax and take care of themselves. Do you guys get the drift here? It's one small victory. Now, how many of you think that you have to choose your sanity or social media marketing? Okay, yeah. I have at least a couple of people agreeing with me on that. It's really hard to run a business and do social media because it feels like a full-time job. Well, one thing you can do is you can hire somebody, and when you do that, you must know what you're hiring them to do, and you need to direct them because only you all know what your brand is and what it brings to the table. So the best way that I've found to help solopreneurs and small businesses conquer this, like big businesses, medium-sized businesses, they have the budget to be able to afford a person that can dedicate themselves to this role. How many of you in this room have that budget? I don't see a single hand. Okay, so what we got to do is we got to work smarter because we can't work any harder. And the best way to do this is to create something that is serialized. So you've got to start thinking of your social media in episodes, because when you think of it in episodes or serialized content, it gets way easier to think about because you suddenly have a container in which to make your decisions. Even though you have the Decision Maker app over here, you're the Decision Maker app, right? So that would be handy to decide what you're going to do your serialized content on. So serialized content can be anything. It can be the fact that you have Tuesday morning inspiration, and you don't even have to call it that to the public. Just call it that to yourself. But if we're doing happiness, maybe we have midweek happy zone or something. But the goal is to create something that is consistently available, and you don't have to tell people, don't expect this every Wednesday, whatever. You don't have to do that part, but it needs to be in your head every Wednesday. I am going to make a post that explains one little small victory for people so that they can create happiness in their life. And I'm going to tie it back to a service or a product that I happen to offer in my business. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, now we have a container where social media does not feel overwhelming. Now we have a way to do this. So, for those of you who are wondering, okay, what do I do with the serialized content thing? Like, how do I actually make that happen in a real world circumstance? You gotta think about what is it that you're good at? And I'm gonna use another metaphor here that I'm going to violate somebody's trademark, I'm sure, but you guys, how many of you have read Love Languages? Like you've heard the Love Languages book? Okay, you have a love language in marketing. And you need to kind of figure out what that is. It's kind of that relationship between you and your customer. Some of you love to write love notes. You're good at writing. You're good at putting a pen to paper or fingers to a keyboard and typing out something that is inspirational. Others of you are really good with your devices. You're good with these little critters, and you can look into it and video something vertically. You can talk to people. You're happy with being on video. Some of you hate video. The thing is, you got to find what you love. If you love to talk, I am an extrovert. I am a huge extrovert. I will fill every silence with my voice. I process everything out loud. And because I do that, I love podcasting. That is my favorite love language to my customers because I can talk for hours. Now, I've started doing them in video too, but it's an offshoot of that. So you've got to find what makes you happy. And if you say, I don't like any of those options, you have to find the one that is the most palatable for you. The reason why we want to do serialized content is, one, it makes your life easier. Two, it gives you a place to go with your ideas. And three, it's consistent. And when it comes to social media and marketing in general, consistency will win the game every single time. This is the tortoise and the hare in real life. The tortoise will win because the tortoise consistently moves forward. And that's the truth here. Now, let me give you another sort of down thing that you need to understand. It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to make a post tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, now everything is glorious, right? You're not even going to make 10 posts, and everything is going to be glorious. You're going to have to do this consistently for a year or more before you're going to get traction, okay? So back on the farm, this is where I have to start plotting my way back to the house to get the tractor, to get the truck unstuck. You've got to make the distance. You have to keep walking along this path. And eventually, life will get a lot easier. But until then, just keep with your program. What I recommend is you pick what you're good at. You pick a channel that you can love. How many of you hate Facebook right now? Like you can't stand being on it. I can't. I deleted the app. Doesn't mean I won't post on Facebook, but I'm not going to spend time on it. Do you guys have a social media channel that you love? That you love? Yes, what do you love? Instagram? How many of you love Instagram? It's fun and creative, right? Okay, how many TikTok addicts are in there in the room? That's me. I'm a TikTok addict. Yeah. So you've got to find a avenue that you enjoy being on, because that's another thing. You need to interact with people and engage with them, because when you've left a breadcrumb out and somebody finds it and picks it up and says, this looks really cool, I'm interested in this. Oh, there's another breadcrumb. You want them to be able to start following the path, and you need to be on there to be responsive. That's when we get into our sales wheel, right? That's when we engage that. That one's down the line a little bit. So your serialized content is what drives your search and SEO. And for all intents and purposes, it also drives AI now. So how many of you go to AI to get questions answered? You start asking questions, right? Your customers are doing that too. So it's very important as business owners that we start incorporating the fact that AI uses very similar technology to SEO, which is search engine optimization. So we need to start writing answers to questions that our clients would have. And if you do your things in audio or video, use a transcription. So that way the computers can access it. But your serialized content drives your SEO program, which is where people Google things. And by the way, Google is your best friend in finding out what to make your serialized content about. So is AI. But Google is great, because if you Google something that is related to what you do, Google gives you a whole list of people also ask. Here are some other questions you might want to know the answer to. Click on those, and they will give you endless topics for you to be able to talk about. All right, so it drives that. Then the breadcrumb that it leaves from SEO and from your serialized content you put out will lead people to a lead magnet. This gets them converted to your email list. How many of you have an email list? Good job. How many of you don't have an email list? Get one. So I go sign up for a free MailChimp account. Start an email database. Start communicating to people via email. Start building that list up so you have a place to be able to get to people. All right, next, you're going to create some type of a lead magnet that creates that small victory. Whoop, can use it. Is it just me now?
We can hear you.
Huh? Okay, perfect. Does this, or do you prefer just my voice? The mic? Okay. All right. So you're going to use a lead magnet to get people onto your list. A lead magnet is just simply a deeper piece of content. All right? It's something that gives people a little bit more information and a little bigger win for you. How many of you sell a product in here? Like an actual physical manufactured product? Okay. For you, your lead magnet is going to be connected to the benefit of whatever your product does. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you sell a service, in general, it is a way for you to get people interested and educated a little bit about what your solution for their problem is. All right, and then you also have your organic social media here. In general, your serialized content is shared over organic social media, even if organic social media isn't the platform that it is published on. So sometimes it is. Sometimes, like you write, LinkedIn has created like newsletters and articles and such. So if you're B2B and LinkedIn is your primary platform, that can be the same place you put your serialized content. If you're a podcast host, however, then in general, you're going to need to create posts around your podcast and put those on social media. Make sense to everybody? Okay, so 1/4 of our marketing program, 1/4, not 100%, is going to be devoted to these things. These are the things that most of these presentations spend all their time on, okay? You can find 1,000,000 presentations that teach you things about this. There's fewer of them out here that teach you this, and that is that you still need to pay for marketing. So when you're trying to bait people into a conversation, you're basically sitting there hoping that they're going to find you. Outbound marketing is inserting yourself into that conversation. And this should be about 25% of your marketing. Now, some of you will want to insert yourself into the conversation in paid social media. That's part of it. Paid advertising overall is really important. And a statistic most business owners don't like me to spout, or a number, is that when you sit down and do a marketing budget, your marketing budget should be somewhere between 8 and 20% of your desired gross revenue. Make sense? That's a big number. Most companies, it needs to be around 15%. So if you want to make $100,000 in gross revenue, and we're keeping the math simple for Kim's brain, $15,000 is what you need to spend on marketing. Now, $15,000 may include things that help you, like a podcast producer for the podcasts, but a portion of that needs to be devoted to paying to insert yourself into a conversation. There's a bunch of ways to insert yourself into conversations. You can insert yourself into a conversation by joining an organization where your customers hang out. How many of you belong to a networking organization in some capacity? Yay. I see we had wellness people in here. There's a great organization called the Wellness Consortium here in Kansas City. Perfect place for you to be. How many of you are Kansas City Chamber members? They're here. This is their home turf. There's another place where you're beginning to, if you're a business consultant or you serve people that would be on the Kansas City Chamber or in the Kansas City Chamber, those are organizations where you can insert yourself into the conversation. Trade shows, expos, all of those are places where you can buy your way through the door and be able to access a group of people that are interested in what you do. And you're inserting yourself into that conversation. Another way you can do this is by joint ventures. All right, so happiness consultant, I love that, so it's stuck in my brain. And we had a massage therapist, right? So I don't know what your all's philosophy is. However, that is a joint venture that could happen. Because I bet you're about making your customers comfortable, relaxed, and happy, and you're dealing with the emotional, probably mental focuses of it, and if they're in pain, that's hard for them to do, right? Okay, this is an example of a joint venture where they both share customers with a common goal, but they're not competitive with each other. And this is a great place for those two businesses to join up, because maybe you have 500 people on your list and you have 500 people on your list. You both just doubled your exposure for your business when you team up together. This is probably one of the best marketing methods that you can do. Do an open house. Take the happiness consulting to the massage therapy place and set up a thing and do education back and forth. You invite your customers, you invite yours, it's an open house, everybody learns about everything, and hopefully you cross-pollinate people back and forth. So how does that sit with you guys? Have you ever done joint ventures? Great. How did it work out? A book club with another coach in town, and you collaborate, and you cross-pollinate your audience. How many of you are in the startup phase of your business? Like you haven't started to really grow it yet. This is the way you leapfrog. You find somebody who's been in business longer than you, where you can provide a benefit to their customers, and you joint venture with them. So a couple of rules here. When you're joint venturing with people, be very, very clear on who does what and what the benefits for each of you are. And if there's benefits are offset, somebody needs to compensate. Because the last thing you want is your joint venture to go south because the other person or you did not feel like you got a good reward out of it. So make sure when you're joint venturing that you're both getting a lot of benefit. But joint venturing is one of the best ways, if you're a new business, to be able to actually get your business up and going and profiting quick. It is a heck of a lot faster than social media, like way, way, way faster. And in realism terms, it's probably faster than networking too. Even though networking, by the way, give yourselves a round of applause, whoever took my poll, you guys were correct with my favorite marketing method, which is networking. All right. Another thing that is on this list, and face-to-face positioning, by the way, is like expos and trade shows. Or some of you, it may be women's conferences, others may be tech business conferences. There were a couple of tech people in here. School conferences. Do you work with like homeschool people? No, you work with people in public schools? Okay. So I don't know, parent-teacher organizations, like having a little table at something that happens within a school. So this is you getting FaceTime with people who are possibly your customers. That's what face-to-face positioning is. The last one here is mass direct communications. So that can be buying article space in a magazine that's printed, or it can be buying space in an email newsletter, or it can be buying space and doing your own email newsletter, or buying the software and doing your own email newsletter. But it's mass direct communications, where I'm sending it out to all of you, but it feels like just you and I are having a conversation. So those are very important pieces of your marketing program. So as you can see, when it comes to marketing, these two wheels are the wheels that spin and drive everything forward. Do you guys have any questions thus far? Yes. Yes, absolutely. So the question was, is it all added in there? And absolutely it is. What you pay the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce or whatever chamber you belong to, that gets included. So all of that money gets pooled together, and that's what makes your final budget for marketing. And product-oriented businesses tend to spend more than service-oriented businesses. And that's likely because of how many people they have to have and the fact that their profit margin is different than a service-oriented business. So, yes. You could, based on the fact that this could include like a marketing professional. Like if you get into a bigger companies that are making 7+ figures, that includes a pretty hefty salary for somebody to do the marketing for a business full time. If you wanted to go that far, I can tell you from experience, most small business owners are not going to put a value on their time when it comes to this. They're going to want to dunk the whole amount in there. I love that thought, though. I really do. And I love that you came up with it because most small business owners don't think about paying themselves. And that's a problem. Because most of us come from salaried jobs. Mine is just so long ago I forgot it. But most of us come from somebody else writing our paycheck and paying all the bills for the company. And it's a hard transition when we move into being the person who has to pay all the bills and make all the money. And that actually kills a lot of businesses because they can't make that shift. Because the person can't mentally make that shift. Occasionally, I bankrupted one business making that shift. Okay, let's go on to our next thing. So those two wheels drive things forward, but we have to steer that experience, right? So those two wheels have to exist in context to two other wheels, which are branding experience and sales. So this is where we start to do differentiation. We start to do competitive advantage. This is where our marketing starts to take on a quality above what those other two wheels did, which I guess would be more akin to quantity. So in this particular wheel, what we're doing is we're creating the experience that our customers want to repeat. Does anybody in here have a business where it's a one and done and you would never have that customer back? No, okay. Real estate agents are really hard for me in these groups because they're kind of one and done people, right? And it's really hard because a lot of these tactics are intended for repeat business. And the truth is that your best chance of your next customer came from the one that you just finished working with. And if you're an entrepreneur, never, ever forget that. The person you just wrapped up with provides you social proof, they provide you referrals, they provide you everything. And when they come back, they'll spend on average about 70% more than their first trip. So the value of a customer you just made, you have to look, oh my gosh, I paid a lot of money for that customer because you've invested in your marketing. But you also have to understand their value is huge. And part of your exercise as an entrepreneur, especially you guys that are new, is to take a look at what is the lifetime value of your customer. Like for me, it's tens of thousands of dollars. And investing in my relationship with that customer is incredibly important because I get paid on coaching. I get paid on consulting. I get paid on people coming to retreats and groups. And they invest thousands of dollars with me. And that is a huge, huge deal. So if you're in that type of business, you got to understand what your customer's value is. We have some people who do product businesses. Remind me again of what you do here. Fashion design. So do you sell clothes? Okay. So, but you're going to have thousands of dollars invested in a customer over a lifetime, right? Is there anybody who sells like a product that's really quick and easy, like a widget of some kind? There's widgets are not as popular in these groups anymore. There should be a lot of widget people around. But if you sold a widget, you'd have to figure out how many widgets is that person going to use over a lifetime, and that's the value. If you have a $5,000 widget, it's going to be a lot more than if it's a $5 widget. So anyway, what you're looking for here is you're looking to create an experience and a relationship with these customers that you make using the other two wheels. Now, this is also a place where you move out of your world the customers that are not for you and invite into your world the customers that are. And this is so very important in creating this because I can tell you, I work with a lot of coaches. Coaches are like, who's my coaches in here? I know there's several of you. Okay. Everybody needs you, right? My gosh, Laura, everybody needs to learn how to listen better, don't they? Okay. But at the end of the day, you have a small portion of that population. And what's more is you have a portion of that population that is incredibly important because they're going to hear your message your way and it's going to resonate with them. And so this part of this is to get those people in your world. So when we looked at those other two wheels, the previous ones to this, these two have to provide you the power to bring those people in, right? This is steering that experience. It's getting the right people to your business. So when you're doing your serialized content, you want to brand it and create an experience so that it attracts just the right people to take your listening programs. What's wrong with marketing to everybody is first, when you market to everybody, nobody is listening. And also, when you market to everybody, you get people that aren't meant for your message and for your business and for your brand. And what happens then is you get disgruntled customers. And that ends up giving you bad social proof. That ends up giving you negative reviews. And what does that do? It drives away the people who would have hired you or would have worked with you or would have bought your widget. So it's really important in this step when it comes to marketing to understand who you are, your position within the competitive landscape in whatever industry you're in, and how you're going to operate within that. All right, so here we have having a well-defined target market. Where was my customer research person? Yay, there's your friend. Okay, Customer research is so important. How many of you written a business plan? Okay, few of you. How many of you have written a business plan within the last 6 months? Yay! If you haven't, and you have a business plan, go back and rewrite it. And do your customer research. Customer research is not just something you do once and are done. And I don't believe writing a business plan is either. I think you should write a business plan every year because your business changes and you need to change. Our world is changing. I mean, just within the last few years, within the last 5 years, we had a pandemic, the rise of AI, and a host of cultural, ethical conundrums that have hit our population. That impacts your branding and your experience, okay? So you've got to go back and look at those business plans over and over and over again. And you have to do ongoing customer research. Never stop being curious. Interview your customers. I'm in the middle of this whole, Laura was one of my victims. I'm in this middle of this whole validation process for a project that I want to start the first of the year. I've been in business for 30 years. I have talked to, I don't even want to know how many entrepreneurs in that, like tens of thousands probably. And yet I'm going back and interviewing people because, and I'm learning new things. I'm learning things I wouldn't have put into practice. Make it a practice to do target market research. Make it a practice. Also, really work on getting your message consistent. How many of you are wafflers? You waffle on the message. If you waffle on your message, get a coach and get clear on your message. Because that's super important, because you're never going to attract the right people into your business unless you have a clear, consistent message. Make sure you are life cycle focused. So a lot of entrepreneurs in their marketing make the mistake of only marketing to new people. They don't go back and market to their current customer database. That is a very unsound financial decision. New customers are expensive and risky. Your existing customers are tried, true, and already purchased. So make sure a good chunk of your marketing is focused on them. And yes, you still have to pay for ads that approach them. In social media marketing, you can target your ads directly to the customers or the people that follow your page. You can even give it your email database, and it will look at those people and target them if it can. So that's all part of really structuring your wheel on outbound marketing to fit what you're doing. So just because they're a customer that you have doesn't mean that they don't deserve outbound marketing. All right, then competitive clarity. How do you fit within the larger picture of the landscape for your customers' choices? And also those choices, by the way, are not just your direct competition. We have 2 massage therapists back here. So you would think, oh, well, that's direct competition. But guess what? We have people who get massages have discretionary dollars. Didn't I have a chiropractor back there somewhere? Who is a chiropractor? Is anybody a chiropractor in here? Chiropractors and massages. Massage people are indirect competition. Because if you have only X number of discretionary dollars as a consumer for personal physical health per month, you're going to have to choose between a chiropractor and a massage therapist, or you might have to. And so you are in indirect competition with chiropractors. Make sense? Okay. All right. So our last little wheel here is sales. How many of you have a CRM software program? Yay! Okay, gold stars to everyone who raised their hand. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, let's start considering where you are and how to get you one of those. So, I wish one of my SCORE folks was in here. I teach a class 2 or 3 times a year for SCORE to teach people how to do email marketing and CRM. And I believe they're all published somewhere on YouTube. And if you don't learn it from me, go find it from somebody else. But really learn how to use a CRM. CRMs are incredibly important. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it is a software that basically tracks your customer details and your relationship with them. And it ties into email marketing because email marketing is the communication avenue for most CRMs. And when I say email marketing, I'm also going to include SMS text marketing because it's tied very closely together. So however SMS or email you're communicating, your CRM pushes the messages out to that list. So if you remember, I said back in the outbound wheel, direct mass communications. So these are direct mass communications to your existing customer base. And it's a really important avenue for you to be able to segment your CRM. The reason why we don't just want to send out mass emails to everybody is because the number one reason that people will not engage with an email for a marketing email is because it's irrelevant to them. So if you're sending the same email to your existing customers that you're sending to a new customer, that can be a problem. It can be a problem. It maybe not be a problem if you've thought about that carefully, but a lot of businesses only send out one email to everyone. And truthfully, in your email marketing program, your CRM program, which is part of the sales hub, you need to have nurture sequences that meet your customers right where they are and move them to the next step in the process. For some of you, that's right to a buy button. For others, it might be a consultation, it might be onto a class, it might be to a webinar, it could be to a dozen different things. So your goal is when it's a new customer, they've never met you before, they get a series of emails that walk them through the steps to get to the next step in the process for them. As they achieve milestones along that journey, the nurture sequences shift and change to walk them all the way through the sale. And at the end of the day, you have a program to keep them loyal. So you have a loyalty program. Your loyalty program should include referrals, reviews, return strategies. So how can you get them to provide you social proof through a review? Very important in our current marketing world. Should be a chunk of your time spent just on that. The second thing would be referrals. How can you get them to bring you more business? Because it's their friends that are going to be these are your salespeople. They're your best salespeople. And then finally, how can you get them to return? The final piece of this puzzle is the closing process. And when I consult with a lot of small businesses, they don't have a closing process. Like, I don't even know what that means. What you have to know is what are the conditions for your customers that cause them to actually pull the trigger and purchase from you. And then you need to create those conditions within your CRM. Did that make sense to everybody? Okay. So now, Miranda, we'll hand out some paperwork. I'm going to owe Miranda a salary here. Okay, so this process is also very important. And how many of you would have considered this part of your marketing program? A few. Okay. Sales is so incredibly important. All right. I got some coaches in here, so you guys are going to recognize this. This is a very common coaching tool. It's called a wheel. And basically what it is designed to do, it is designed to help you understand where you are now, where you need to concentrate your efforts, and then assess, when you're done with that, on how well you did. So what you do is you take a look. So all 16 of those things are on this piece of paper that she's handing out. There's 8 on each wheel. And what you're going to do is you're going to look and say, okay, I have face-to-face positioning. What expos do you go to? Do you go to any? Do you do any face-to-face stuff? If you do, like if you have a really good program, like you're up here speaking at GEW and talking to people, you might color this all of the way to the edge. But if you don't, you would color in just the bottom or leave it blank. So the goal here is to look at each of these sections on this wheel and determine, is this something I need to work on? Do I have a fully formed and functional program that offers me a very balanced set of wheels. And it's a great tool for you to utilize later even to go back and look at this again and color in and say where you've made progress. Because our ultimate goal is to get our wheels to be balanced. We want balance. We want all 4 tires fully aired up and running fast and all the lug nuts on. Because that's the way we're going to get the furthest, the fastest, the safest. So, who has questions about this little fun exercise? Yes.
How do we know what equates something to color in?
So, as far as like how far to color it in?
Yeah, what is that?
So, pick a topic off of there.
Okay, so organic social media.
Okay, do you do any organic posting on social media? Okay. Is it targeted and well-formed and consistent, like you do it at least weekly or multiple times per week?
Yes.
Is it getting you results? Okay, you would color that all the way in. That's a fully formed, nice, organic social media part of that wheel. And when you get them colored in, what they'll look like is you'll notice where it's out of balance. Because you'll see one place that doesn't have hardly any color and another that's all the way colored in. So you're obviously sitting in a class on marketing, so even though that's fully formed, what's next to it? Paid ad, how many paid ads do you put out in a month? None. Okay? Are you getting all of the results that you want from your marketing? Okay, so that's where it's out of balance. See how that works? So now what you do is you look at those things and say, okay, I'm fully formed here, but over here there's nothing. And then imagine that being on a car. That'd be a rocky, rocky road to drive on, right? At the very least, even if they're all doing it and one's doing it, it'd be like, oh, ba-bump, 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 right? You're not making as much progress as you could. And again, I'm going to go back to the adage that I gave you guys in the beginning. You can drive on 4 flat tires. You can get some places. You're just not going to get as far as you would if you had them all aired up and working well. You can operate with 1 lug nut gone. It may not be the safest equation, but you can do it. So the goal here is to get things as balanced as you possibly can. And we went over all 16 of those points because there's 4 wheels with 4 lug nuts. Do you guys like my metaphor? I did this to try to make it easy for people to understand. Because I think sometimes we miss the point because we get too hyper-focused on one thing. And the hyper-focus for the last decade has been on social media. And there are some people, and I will not discount it, there are some people that the gods smile upon, and they make 5 posts and go viral and become incredibly successful and sell millions of dollars of stuff. But for 99.8% of us, we got a longer trajectory to make that happen. And we have to use everything in our arsenal in order to get it done. I have 15 minutes, and I want questions. So who has questions? And you can ask me anything on, well, anything related to business and marketing. Okay, yes. That's fun. Yes. You don't do one, you do multiple. You do a lot of them. So you're brand new. So the sales wheel, you need to have a plan for, but you're probably not going to enact it. Okay, let me repeat that question so that you guys can all hear. So she has a business where she's working with a very niche market, which is couples who start businesses together, which, by the way, I always tell people in my website classes, don't hire your spouse unless you want to come see me for marriage counseling or couple counseling. Anyway, so what you want to do is you want to start thinking about your inbound and outbound marketing, right? So your inbound marketing is putting the bait out. So that's starting to write articles. I think you would do great starting a podcast, video YouTube channel, TikTok, whatever appeals to you along those lines. There's written, visual, audio, video kind of things, right? So pick that and start working on it. But here's the thing, you're going to have to employ your outbound marketing because you're going to have to pay for some traction. You're going to need some joint ventures. So you could joint venture with a variety of businesses that support couples. Is there any, we had a mental health person in here. Do you guys do? He's like, no. No, none of that. Okay. So you find people who, maybe a couples counselor that you could do referrals back and forth with, or people like me who do work with entrepreneurs where you could talk about that, right? So you start your networking. Do you see you're starting to pick all of those wheels up? At the same time, you need to start thinking through your whole process, right? You need to do some target market research for your branding and experience because you need to understand what are the catalysts that get this people to actually make a decision to hire somebody to help them with this. What are they willing to pay for it? What are their pain points? What are their gain points? That turns around and feeds your content engine because you're going back and creating more content. Then you're using that to pay for advertising to get that out on social media and in other markets. And meanwhile, you're signing up for the Just for Her events here in Kansas City where you're getting face-to-face. Do you see what I mean? It's a whole united effort. That's the problem I think people make when it comes to their marketing is they think that it's this disjointed thing that you work on one thing. And it's really a holistic effort. You got to, and the cool thing about it, however, is it's all tied together. So it's not just one project 16 times, it's 16 points to the same project. So that, I hope that helps you think about that better. All right, yes. Go right ahead, shoot. You're fine, yes. So branding is, again, back to target market research. You have to understand who you're serving, and you also have to understand how you want to serve them and how they're being served other places. So that's a lot of research. As far as product launch, are we talking launch to an already existing audience that you have or launch to a cold audience that doesn't even know what you're doing? E-commerce? Okay, so launching like an online store, that's logistics and technology. That's an easy solution. From this standpoint, you just drive people to that store and then create the experience there, right? How many of you have a website that you buy stuff from because you love the website? Is there anybody in here who does that? I bet y'all buy stuff from Amazon though, don't you? Okay. Why do you buy stuff from Amazon? Because it's easy? All right. You got to figure out what the trigger is for the people you want. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it just takes time. This is the hardest thing, and I think this is a place where business consultants, we get all excitable, right? We're like, oh, you're starting a business, you're launching an e-commerce store, it's going to be fantastic, you're going to love it, I'm going to be great, it's going to be fantastic. And then you're like, this is hard-ass work. And it's a year in, and you're like, why is this not doing better? And I'm like, well, it takes 3 years. So on average, you guys, it takes 3 years. And I tell people when they very first start into business, it's like pushing a giant rock up a hill. And you are pushing that rock. And the harder it gets, the further up the hill you get, the harder it gets to push. But at some point, you break the top of the hill and it rolls. And then the fun part of entrepreneurship is it's going to go find another hill for you to roll it up. But it's easy for a minute. But you just start looking at all of these things and saying, how does this apply to e-commerce? You're just playing in a little bit of a different world with like how you would go about joint ventures. Maybe you joint venture with, oh, here's fun. Do you do fashions for men and women? Here you go. So I don't know, find something to do with couples, right? I mean, you've got to, the joint venture part, you can joint venture online just as well as you can in person. And when you're launching, that makes a big difference because it gets you into an audience that already exists and with someone who that audience already trusts to help you borrow the trust that they've earned. And we're all living on borrowed trust. Yes, Tori.
How balanced are your
Mine? I could do more paid advertising for sure. I feel really well balanced on the other three. I don't spend as much money as I probably need to in definite and paid marketing. Although I do belong to a lot of networking organizations. So thank you. And back here and then there.
Yeah, where do you start? Day one.
Same thing, same answer to her. You start looking at all of it and how can you put it together? It's one project. It is one project. So most of the time I ask people to start, are you an established business or a startup? A startup, okay. So you're gonna start likely with what is the branding and experience and target market research, which will give you the things to fill in the inbound and the outbound marketing, and then you'll fill it all in with the sales at the end. But inbound and outbound are gonna go together really tightly because they really are keyed off of each other. So remember, inbound is where we're leaving bait, and outbound is where we're inserting ourselves into the conversation. And both of them are gonna use the same tools. So it's just a matter of how you're approaching that particular tactic. I know that that's not the answer you wanted to hear. You wanted it very clear. You should start by picking a podcast. But in realistics, when you're doing startups, a lot of times branding and experience is a place people start because you got to figure out how you're going to position yourself in a market. And that's about that and creating the experience. You already have the experience created. That's why I had you start in a different spot. All right, this question over here. Joint ventures. Joint ventures you don't have to pay people for. In general, it's a trade, right? It's a double-sided benefit. If you're a new business, though, and you're approaching an existing business with a joint venture offer, you need to bring something pretty important to the table. You may have to say, hey, here's the deal. I realize your list and your customer database is a lot bigger, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest in putting together the open house, and I will take care of getting the invitations printed, and I will take care of setting up all the tables and doing all the cleanup. And do you see what I mean? You may have to put in sweat equity to match their equity. Yes. Yes?
You mentioned the importance of maintaining email lists.
Yes.
How do you ethically build an email list as a start?
One email at a time. You can't buy lists. It's not a good thing. And so if you're using your inbound and outbound marketing correctly, so you're putting out your serialized content, kind of just like this free, here I am, this is what I do, and then you're leading people with the breadcrumbs over to a lead magnet, that list is gonna grow on its own. And here's where I think people get into a measuring contest with email lists, right? They're like, how many people are on your list? How many people are on your list? How many? And when I've done email marketing consultations for way longer than I want to admit, and people say, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed to tell you, I only have 25 people on my email database. I'm like, are those 25 people who are genuinely interested in what you have to do, or are they 25 family members that you coerced into doing this? And if they tell me they're 25 people that are genuinely interested, I'm like, I'm happy. This we can work with. If you bring me a list of 5,000 people who you kind of just randomly chunked in there because you gave away a Starbucks gift card for $400 in an expo, I can't work with that. You can have thousands of those people and you will not get as much traction as the person with the 25 really engaged people. So stop thinking about your email list in quantity and start thinking about quality. And the key to a good email list is maintaining that quality. And today you're rewarded for doing that. When people open your emails and you have a really high open email rate, you get rewarded with domain authority, which means your emails get a better deliverability rate. So all of the system is set up to support you maintaining a good list and keeping that kind of spam quality down. Creating a good email marketing program is actually easier than creating a spammy one. So it's just, because once you get it created, it's really easy to keep maintaining because you move people through segments and then you do some routine stuff and let people go, bless and release those people who unsubscribe. They're not your people. It just opened up a space on your list for a better person. So yeah, email marketing is definitely a hub of what you need to do, but one email at a time is my answer. And again, I'm the one who tells you all the things you don't want to hear. All right, how am I doing on time? I am exactly at the end of my time. Please tell me you guys got something out of this. Are you excited? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.